Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 2. Hello, welcome back to part 2 of our Indiana Jones episode. Last episode, you'll know that we did a Legends episode doing Denzel Washington films, and as always, we asked you guys on the world of Instagram what your favourite Denzel Washington films are. And first up, Anton Kinelov, a regular responder, said, Remember the Titans is a good one. The Movie Boners said, Oh, that's a tough one. All of them. John Q is underrated. The Anorak Oasis podcast said Much Ado About Nothing or Safe House. Shoot the Flick podcast said Philadelphia, but John Q is an honourable mention. And Take 97, David Ingram said Philadelphia. Have you guys got a Denzel Washington choice that springs to mind?
I like Flight.
Flight, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, maybe Flight. Yeah, yeah, we'll go with that.
You can jump onto mine.
Cut mine, yeah.
We're buddies here.
Yeah, we went with Training Day and Man on Fire for our episode.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice, yeah.
I just like Flight because I worked the cinema when it was out. So I've got like fond memories of standing in that screen all day long. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So my choice then for Indiana Jones films, well, this has been such a tough decision for me. I mean, when I was messaging you what my choice was going to be, I literally wrote down Raiders of the Lost Ark, then I deleted it and then put The Last Crusade. It was literally a coin flip. I think why I went for The Last Crusade is just the fact that Harrison Ford's chemistry with Sean Connery is just amazing, and it never gets boring for me. That element just tips over the edge for me choosing Last Crusade for me. What's your initial reactions to Last Crusade then, guys?
So when I watched it as a kid, I remember liking this a lot less than the other ones. But then watching it as an adult, I was like, we've chosen poorly because I really loved this one. Like, I had such a good time. I forgot how good the ending sequence is where he does his different tasks. Sean Connery wasn't as mean as I remembered. I remembered him being a lot less funny. I thought it was really mean-spirited when I was a kid. I was like, oh, his dad doesn't like him. I think because I watched Austin Power Goldmember too early when I was a kid at the same time. So I can have, it was the same thing to me, but it's really not. So yeah, I'm a bit... Oh, I really loved this film. When I watched it again, I was like, I'll watch this again, maybe tomorrow. Like, it's so good. Oh, how about you, Calum?
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what to expect going into this one because I think revisiting the Temple of Doom was a real pleasant surprise for me. And so I was kind of thinking, I was hoping this would be as well. But I had read that a lot of people were, I suppose... I wouldn't say that this was a bad film as such, but I think in many ways a lot of people think this is maybe a slight step down, maybe perhaps. So I wasn't really sure what to expect going in.
Really? Okay.
As a kid, this was probably the one I was like second most familiar with as a child, but the scenes that stuck with me are like really bizarre. Right. So it says a lot about me. I didn't remember, for example, the final scene where he's going through the caverns and finds the old knight after the traps. I did remember the scene where him and his dad are on the motorbike and they have to decide between going towards Berlin or Venice or wherever it was. That scene, for some reason, I remembered really well. So I was like, my mind apparently is not good. But yeah, no, I think I can see why maybe children would be less infused with this one in some ways. As an adult, currently liked it a lot, actually. Yeah, this was a good subject for discussion, I think.
Yeah, it's funny you say that it's the worst because this is the one the nerdy Indiana Jones fans seem to like the most.
See,
From it's debatable. I'm only saying because I've read, and people were arguing on it harshly, and this one was coming up the most.
Yeah, I would rank this as my favourite. I would say Last Crusade 1, Raiders 2nd, Temple of Doom 3rd.
Interesting. I've maybe upset a lot of people then, but that's fine. Wouldn't be the first time. So,
so directing then. I do love the opening fake out where you follow these scout kids and you assume they're witnessing Indiana Jones because he's got the same hat, the fedora, but he's got like a black leather jacket on and you're like, that's odd. And then it's revealed that it's not Indy at all. And one of the kids says Indy, and the title card comes up saying Utah 1912. Then the chase on the circus train is great. It's fantastic. Some of my favorite moments are when Indy is stopping like a knife from one of the goons and a rhino horn bursts through the roof and narrowly missing both of their crown jewels. And they're both like, that was close. What I love about this scene is that as soon as you see like the fedora on Richard Young's head, you have an idea of what's going to happen. You're going to get like a mini origin scene about how Indy gets his like classic items and how he finds his fear of snakes. But when the chase ends, he gets back to his house. So there's a slight doubt about how he gets the hat. But then Richard Young just gives it to him out of respect, which for some you could say is a bit anticlimactic compared to how all the other things are discovered. But I think it's just a cool respect thing, a respect moment. Plus, I loved the double punch on the boat. That was awesome.
It doesn't set up the dad very well, though, because I got so angry when he wouldn't listen to his child and made him count in Latin. I'm like, you're a dick. I'm like, oh my God, you're going to be insufferable. And he kind of was. I was kind of right.
I think that train as a set piece, like you've got so many potential opportunities there for what you could include in it, and I think having the train as something that you can work through is great. You've got your lines, and you've got the introduction to the whip, I suppose, at that point as well. This child taking the whip off the side, and so you've got a little. It's is it an origin moment? I don't know. I mean, you could maybe argue that. I suppose like it's possibly just a coincidence.
Yeah,
but like,
I'd say.
It's nice. I think all of these little moments there are nice, and plus I love the escape from the train as well. The figure with the magic box and the swinging on the pole from the roof of the train as well. It's also ludicrous and fun, and I think that's kind of what you want from this kind of film. So I think it's a great way for it to start.
Yeah, they even go as far as like giving him a scar on his chin. So obviously Harrison Ford's got a real scar on his chin. So it's interesting they went to that length of detail with the references. I love the church scene in Venice where they search for like the second marker. On rewatches, you get the sense that Spielberg is very consciously keeping the camera at like a low angle, tilting up on the characters, just so he doesn't reveal the massive X on the floor. That was kind of funny, actually. Plus, on rewatches, you begin to notice that when Indy breaks a hole in the floor, the X is gone. Yeah. I always feel like foolish when Spielberg tricks you like that so seamlessly on the first watch. He does that in a similar thing in Jurassic Park too. If you notice, like when the T-Rex breaks through the cables, and then later a cliff appears and the Jeep falls down it, and like, well, how the hell did the T-Rex come through the fence? So his films are very compelling that you never really notice it at first, the first time at least. But the rats in that scene, no thank you, I do not like rats. It's kind of, that's horrible.
Is that your snakes?
Yeah, pretty much. I do not like rats.
I'm spiders, man. I could do rats, I can do snakes. Spiders, though,
yeah, they haven't really done spiders, have they? In Indiana Jones films, so you're lucky.
No, but there's always this one, the fifth one.
Yeah,
could do spiders
just to spite me because I've said this now.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
I think what makes like the action scenes special in this film is that like Indy is fighting, Nazis on the way to finding the Grail, but he's also like having to deal with his dad making every situation worse.
Yeah.
I love the scene in the castle where Indy asks him to burn through the ropes when they're tied up, but ends up like burning down the room.
He drops a lighter.
Yeah. And facing Nazis in the secret room. And then in the aeroplane, like he shoots the back of the plane so Indy can't fly it properly. But I love the end of that plane attack scene where Sean Connery uses his umbrella to scatter the birds to crash the Nazi plane. That was great. A great hero moment for the character.
I mean, not for the seagulls. Kind of like...
No, not for the seagulls.
That was the day their village ended.
Yeah, that was a...
Yeah.
But for him, it was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't really like about the scene, though, is that when the Nazi plane follows them through the tunnel, I just thought that was a bit too goofy for me. The fact that the plane just like goes past the car. That was a bit like, that's a bit much.
Yeah, the speed at which it's going at. I think for me, like, so, I mean, the film as a whole, actually, like, it's funny you mentioned the relationship between him and his dad, because there's a lot of kind of goofiness going on there. I think the dad's kind of shambles, whether it's setting the room on fire or whether it's blowing off the back of the plane, those are kind of there to lighten the mood in what would otherwise be quite tense situations. I mean, it takes a lot for like the room burning down to lighten the mood, I suppose. You know, that's maybe not.
It lightens the mood, literally. Yeah.
Literally lightens the mood. He is kind of, I guess, a comic relief in some ways, and I kind of feel like, what would this film be if it weren't for that kind of back and forth in that way? Would it be more tonally a bit more serious, and dark's the wrong word, but what would it be without the amount of levity which is present?
Would it be more straightforward?
Yeah. But like, it's funny that they're doing that levity, because if you look at it technically, like, Sean Connery's an awful father. Like, I know he's joking, like, there's jokes for it, but he has neglected the crap out of his son. He doesn't respect his child. You know, if you look at it that way, it's like, yeah, we're laughing about it, but really it's quite tragic, their relationship. Yeah. I know it kind of gets better in the end, because he saved his dad, but it's like, you know, well, does that make up for 35 years of neglect? I don't know.
There's a bit where he says something like, there was so much that was unsaid. Was it like, it would only have taken 5 minutes or something like that? And I'm like, 5 minutes, really? 5 minutes to cover 35 years of bad parenting. Okay, like,
yeah.
Yeah, Indy seems to care a lot more when his dad's in peril than his dad cares about his son being in peril. And I'm like, I don't know, there's something about that rubs me the wrong way, because that's your child. Right. Like, you know, I know he's obsessed with the Grail, and in the end, when he rescues his son, rather than letting his son die to try and get the Grail, like, that's like meant to be his turning point. But I think he's just been so neglectful for so long that doesn't really make up for it enough. But that being said, I did enjoy their chemistry throughout, and enjoyed the joking things. I'm being harsh, but I'm just looking at it from an outside, like, if you think about it, this is a bit off.
Sean Connery doesn't show up for like 45 minutes. So, I mean, is that a problem for you, Calum, in this film? Or does it work really well up until Sean Connery arrives? I
mean, I wouldn't even say his arrival's a huge problem as such, because I like the tonal change somewhat. So I wouldn't say my comment was necessarily a critique as such. But I do think his arrival is well timed at that point, because I think we've had, as you say, about 45 minutes of the film without him. And I like that it allows the I suppose the tone to sort of change direction somewhat at that point, because Indiana Jones as a character is very, he's very sort of, it's funny, actually. I was about to say he's very independent, but he's kind. I mean, he is, but like, he's not like infallible. Like, we see him, we've seen him kind of get caught out by like bigger groups of people who'll run one way, there'll be a group coming this way, and then he'll turn and run. Or there's the water. He's not the consummate like action hero in the way that, you know, we're maybe used to in other films. He's not infallible. But he does get on with things, and he does kind of play by his own set of rules. And then suddenly he's paired up with his dad, who's somewhat disapproving, like, oh, you killed all these people, or, you know, is somewhat incompetent himself, maybe means well, but doesn't necessarily say the right thing. It's a really, really interesting dynamic. I think, especially by this point, when you're in the third film in the franchise, I think it's probably needed in some ways, just to keep things interesting. In some ways, I think. So I don't know. I like it. I think his arrival is well timed, and I think his introduction, bashing Indy over the head, I like it. I think, because we don't know. It's worth noting, we don't know if he's actually still alive or not at this point. All we know is that he was being kept in this castle, and so we don't know.
But he's on the poster.
Well.
Well, if you haven't seen the poster, I guess.
It's like, well, if he's dead, like...
he's dead.
I'm sorry, I was just here to ruin the mood. But that scene where he's in the room when they meet, like, it says so much about his character that he hits him with a vase, and his first concern is that the vase is real, like a real Ming vase. Like, oh no, I might have broken it. He doesn't care that he's like bonked his child.
Yeah. It turns out to be a fake.
Yeah, he's like, thank God. He's like, oh no, it's fine, I'm fine. And also that's when he says, I thought you were one of them. And obviously he's just smashed through a window. He's like, well, he'd come through the doors down.
The doors dead, yeah. The last scene is really great, but slightly flawed if you think about it too much. Like, my favorite trial is definitely like the leap of faith one at the end, because one, it ties into Indy and his father's relationship, that he has to believe in the Grail, that it exists. So it's just a leap of faith. Two, it's brilliant direction and production design, where the camera just like moves to the right to reveal a perfectly painted bridge to match the cliff face. That's genius to me. Like, the other two challenges are slightly flawed, because the first one is quite obvious that you have to keep low, because we've just seen two people lose their heads going in.
Then you have to do a roll, though. Like, how are you meant to know to do? You kneel and then you have to do a tuck and roll. Nothing in the Bible says that.
Yeah, just kneel. Oh, I'm split in half. Just lost my head. I'm split in half too. Yeah. But the second one, the word of God, like, Indy steps on the wrong space and like falls through the hole, but he's clinging on another space, which is clearly not the right letter. So maybe there's like a solid grid thing that's holding them all in place, maybe. Yeah,
I don't get why he goes letter to letter either. He could just go like skip ahead to the H. Like, you could just leap. Yeah. Like, he goes every single one little steps. Yeah.
But I loved like the surprise of the last trial, where there's like loads of grails to choose from, and I love the nice gory moment when Donovan dies is great. Combination of visual effects at the time and practical effects, that was great.
He does look like Doc Brown, Cal. So Cal messaged me when we were watching it. He's like, "Is that Back to the Future reference?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "He does look like Doc Brown."
I think when I was a kid, when I watched that, when he turns, I'm like, I was genuinely scared. I think that's the one like indie moment that did scare me out of the three films.
No, I got the same thing with when the guy's face melts in the first one.
Oh, right. I wasn't too bad about that.
See, I didn't like it as an adult either, when he's like shrieking, "What's happening to me?" And he's like, "Oh, he's a corpse." It's grim.
But I love that moment in that room with the choice of the goblets and all that sort of thing going on, because, you know, or had you not been the expert archaeologist, or, you know, deep into your mythos or whatever, your average person who'd managed to stumble their way there wouldn't know which one to pick at that point as well. I think that kind of set piece is fantastic, and I like that we actually get to see what happens when you pick the wrong one, because Indiana Jones just isn't going to pick the wrong one. You know, if it's left to him, he's just not going to. So I think for us to get the option to see what happens when you do is kind of cool.
I mean, to be fair, though, see if you had a room full of like golden, precious cups, right, and you see this one shitty one, would you not pick the shitty one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, like, if it's Jesus, you know, Jesus meant to be humble.
Hey, I'm James Lovino, and I'm here to tell you about Alternate Sides, a movie podcast with a twist. I've worked in the film business for 2 decades, but I haven't actually seen that many movies, and this has been driving my frequent collaborator, Sam, a self-confessed film snob, crazy. So every week, while he's stuck in his car trying to avoid getting a parking ticket, thanks to New York City's alternate side parking regulations, we discuss a classic film I've finally just gotten around to seeing. Alternate Sides, a new podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship, wherever you get your podcasts.
It's probably very easily missed as well, you know. He's very like struck by all the shiny in the room, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, which shiny one do I pick? From Donovan's perspective, he's like, I don't know which one. Which shiny do I pick? You know, kind of thing.
But then you see the little stumpy crap and you just go,
yeah.
Hey, it's like in Disney when you see the things that are going to be picked up are less good drawn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's the book she's going to interact with because that book's less detailed.
Yeah. So, favorite shot or scene, guys? What are you going for?
Oh no, just so many. I think for me, it's going to be the leap of faith one. Is probably the same as you, because it's just the way they reveal the bridge is so cool. And then he scatters some stone over it, and you can see it. But I'm not convinced that, like, I don't know. See, when you first see it, there's nothing there. Like, there's no painted bridge. You know what I mean? Because you can see when they move back, it looks different. I'm just like, there's nothing there.
Because obviously in the direction they are cheating a little bit, because with that shot it's at an angle anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it only really works from if, Indy is literally looking directly in front of it,
Forward,
from where he's standing. But the actual shot, it is at an angle.
Yeah. But when you first watch it, like, how is he going to get past this?
Yeah.
And you got Sean Connery murmuring to him in the background. They have like a psychic connection for a bit.
Yeah.
Totally. I think for me, I love the scene where Harrison and Sean are tied up. I'm going to go with their acting names. We're that formal now. Harrison and Sean are tied.
Harrison and
Sean are tied up.
Sean Connery
in the room as it's burning down. I think that's great. I think just the accidental dropping of the lighter and the kind of, I suppose, comedic elements of it as he's slowly watching this room go up on fire, and we're meant to believe that, like, Indiana's not only not seen the light reflecting off the walls, he's not detecting the heat coming from behind him either. He's just like slow reveal. Like, it's just not aware. To me it's fine. Like, it's great. It's great. Fine. I love it. I actually really like the boat chase early on as well, where they're going between the two ships, and he says, "Go around, don't go between," and she thinks you're going between. It's very silly and very kind of,
"Are you crazy? Go between them? Are you crazy?"
Yeah, it's very old-fashioned humor in a way. I mean, even for then, it's kind of old-fashioned humor, but I think it actually works quite well given the context. Again, it's just a nice little bit of levity for everything, and I'm all about having the tone change just for a moment during that.
That's the thing. I've changed my mind already. Okay. I've changed my mind. I want, the one where it's the guy when they're in the tank.
Yeah.
And they think he's fallen off the edge of the cliff, and they're all stood there solemnly looking over the edge, like,
yeah.
And then he just appears at the side, and he's like, well, what are we looking at?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe my favourite scene.
Yeah, I love that. I had that in acting, where, like, Harrison Ford's just exhausted, and, like, I just love that lean of just, like, what are we looking at?
That's brilliant.
And then Sean Connery, just the slow reveal of realizing he's right next to him. And, he's so pleased that he's alive, obviously. Then literally moments later, he's like, right, come on, let's go. And just drops.
Yeah, totally.
That's a great moment.
Just one final tiny bit for me as well is when they've managed to escape the last temple at the end, and you get the shot of the exterior of this thing. The exterior, I can't pronounce my words today. The exterior of this thing as the smoke kind of builds, and you just see this thing built into the side of the cliff.
Petra.
It's such a great shot. Like, I mean, it doesn't like lead on to anything, but just as a shot by itself, I think it's a really, really great shot. I think it's fantastic. So there you go. My final little addition.
I was surprised when I actually watched that. I was just like, I was surprised they were allowed to do that. To literally have a smoke bomb come out of it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Petra is obviously ancient, so in Jordan.
You're Steven Spielberg, can do what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's such a big deal. They're like, yeah, you do what you want. It's fine.
Blow up our stuff. It's fine. We're cool.
It's only thousands of years old.
Yeah, there's so many scenes in this one that you could point out, and that's really scary, Calum, because we picked Temple of Doom, and then there's this one. I'm like, oh, this one. Also, the no ticket scene where he beats up a guy and then lobs him off the boat, and the crowd are like, what? He's like, no ticket.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
My favorite shot is the whole like tank chase, actually, because it's just so relentless, and all the main characters in the scene are all connected to the action, like inside the tank and out. Like, it starts with like clever direction from Spielberg, where it's horse versus tank with the cannon fire. But Indy just like runs around the tank, and you see it from the inside of the tank, and all of a sudden the tank is facing the rest of the cars, and it crashes into one of them. And I loved it when Indy is fighting a Nazi on top of the tank, and a Nazi inside the tank is using a periscope, and Indy kicks the periscope, which takes out one of the Nazis inside the tank, which begins a parallel like tussle where Connery is at gunpoint and Indy is about to get his face grinded off by the tank tracks by Vogel. But Connery gets out of his situation with his kind of genius Bond gadget pen ink. Then he shoots a car with a cannon, releasing Indy from Vogel, but Indy ends up hanging on the end of one of the broken cannons. So then Connery and Marcus fight like a Nazi who ends up firing a gun which kills the driver, allowing Indy to escape again. So all the action from the characters has a knock-on effect to the other characters. So just so clever and relentless. It seems to go on forever. I love that. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's particularly good fun. Like having a scene where one action impacts something that allows someone else to do something like that. It's not like your typical, I don't know, action scenario, whether it's, I don't know, one-on-one, or whether it's, something greater like one versus 1,000 or something like that. It's just these little set pieces where little incidents allow the action to flow from one area to another, and they're all, whether they know it or not, able to help each other in that way. I think that's just a great bit of construction in terms of the way that it's shot, fought, and written. And you can only begin to imagine how much time would have gone into actually filming that and putting that together. Like that would have taken so much time to coordinate and to choreograph. So definitely great bit. I
mean, it feels like you could only see that in an Indiana Jones film, like it's so creative, and you feel like they've really thought about how to be creative with this action scene. Like, okay, we've got a post World War I tank, and we've got horses. How are we going to make this interesting? Not just Indy on a horse riding away from gunfire type of thing, or literally just fighting on top of it. It's all connected with all the characters.
Yeah, it's an interesting problem to solve because, a horse versus a tank. Essentially, you don't really have that many ways that you can kind of make that a fair fight, and so it's definitely a difficult question to have to find a solution to in terms of the way it's displayed.
Horses are more mobile though. Like you can't just turn a tank around.
Well, they use that. They use that, don't they, in the direction? Directing score for Last Crusade, guys. What are you going for?
What do you think, Sam? It's got to be pretty high.
Probably a 9 again, eh?
Yeah, we're going to have to be really boring. And
9.5?
Well, the only scene I have a big problem with throughout the entire film is the one where Hitler's in it. I'm like,
oh, right,
did we need to have Hitler sign the book? Like, I know we're meant to make sure we know that it's Hitler, but like, I just find that so strange.
It's funny, but like, it's definitely not the best joke in the movie. Not really in the top 5 jokes at all.
Yeah, it's a weird one for me because I understand the point of it, right? So it's like, ha ha ha, Hitler.
Yeah.
But then like, I suppose, but like Hitler's responsible for the deaths of millions of people. So should we be like making light of like ha 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 Hitler? I don't know. It seems like the sort of thing that, given that the film is made in the 80s, okay, but I don't think anyone would pitch that now, and I don't say that in a people should be pitching that way.
Well, Jojo Rabbit.
Well, see, that's a conversation for another time. That's a really interesting one because obviously that's a fictional depiction of an imaginary Hitler.
Yeah. And this Hitler's a minor inconvenience. He's just a background character. Like, I know it's set like the Nazis are the bad guys, but it's like, should they be the bad guys? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it sets in a time period, sure, but they're just a minor inconvenience. They're useless at shooting. And it's like, in real life, they've murdered a bunch of people. No one has aim in Indiana Jones films, but especially the Nazis, they don't have any aim at all.
Yeah, definitely. But I think you're right. So I would probably put it about a 9 overall anyway. To come back around to the question, which was the score for directing.
Yeah, sorry.
Sure. I would say 9.
I was just saying why it's not a 10.
Yeah.
All right. Minus Hitler, it would be a 10.
Yeah, that's good.
So, yeah, I think this is an extraordinary piece of work from Spielberg. So I would probably go like a 9.3 for me.
That's fair.
It's just really creative. Spielberg's, how he works out all this creative action that just feels so pure Indiana Jones is just great.
I'm already thinking our pick's going to lose. We're going to lose.
Honestly, though, like when I was watching it, I was like, it's way better than I remember, Calum. It's just so good. You can't lie. It's a bloody good film.
Right. Well, I haven't had a win in a while, so.
Maybe we should give him it. We did it on purpose.
Yes, very generous.
I think Boaz beat me when it was just me and him last time, and then I think we've had a string of guests that have won. So.
Oh, you deserve it then.
Yeah.
We're proud losers. So.
We are.
Thank you.
Third or nothing.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, let's accept our loss with dignity.
Right. Screenplay then. So it's really funny that they cast the only person that could really play Indiana Jones' father in Sean Connery, like the first James Bond. You know, that opening scene basically worked as an opening in a Bond film because the whole scene has no real bearing on what happens in the rest of the film, other than the tease of his father, who his father is. You know, that's just like a Bond movie.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the scene is basically a mini prequel movie, so I feel like it's to blame for the influx of prequels that we've had over the years since. We've never really had anything like this before, I don't think.
No, probably not.
But yeah, everyone's looking at this film and then, let's do prequels. I'm like, yay.
Yes, let's.
Yeah, never-ending prequels, woohoo. Especially with Harrison Ford characters. Like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
I think the problem for having Sean Connery, the one thing is they are clearly not the age difference they should be for father and son.
No.
Like, you're just not buying it.
Was it only like 10 years? Or
12
something?
years, I think.
12, yeah.
Yeah, they have good chemistry, but it's like he could just be his uncle, you know, or something. I don't know, something more realistic than that being father and son, because he's just not old enough and Harrison Ford's not young enough.
Well, you know, Sean Connery keeps the grey. You know, he doesn't have a toupee this time. So that works, I guess.
Yeah, they do try and age him a bit.
Yeah.
He's also just aggressively Scottish, and Harrison Ford's just like not. Like, you know, you can't not be Scottish. He's Sean Connery. So when Harrison Ford does his little Scottish lord voice,
Oh god, that is so weird, that moment.
I messaged Calum during it. I'm like, dude, this is racism. I'm kidding, but you know,
Feeling attacked right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So, I'm a Scottish lord. I'm like, oh my god, you're Scotty.
Like, I feel like it's so weird because there's no reason for him to do that, really.
No.
Because, like, as soon as the guy opens the door, he can just punch him in the face.
He definitely did it just to piss off Sean Connery. Do you think so?
There's no, like, eye hole, I don't think.
No.
So
No.
he can just literally just punch him and walk in.
He wanted to wear the beret. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, we
Yeah,
know
we
his
know
game.
what's up.
He saw the beret. He's like, ooh, I want
Yeah.
that, please.
I think where this film kind of excels and where Temple of Doom perhaps falls a little short is that Indy's motivations are fully established here. Indy is presented with this quest to find the Holy Grail, but his father has been captured. So emotionally, we know where he's at. Plus, there's doubt about his beliefs that the Grail exists, where he literally asked the question to Marcus Brody. Whereas in Temple of Doom, Indy's motivations are very vague, as I said in the last part. Like, it's just fortune and glory, you know, before they set off. So I feel like there's no moral ambiguity here in this film. It's not difficult to get your grips on
Well,
what.
to be fair, that's like character growth through the series, though. Because
Yeah,
Temple of Doom is first, and then it's the first
Okay.
one, and then it's this one.
I see that. Yeah.
So you could say that that's like the touch of a woman, you know, a proper woman. It's what cured him in the middle one, you know. I know it's
Possibly.
first. But I would just say that's probably a credit to the series rather than a flaw of Temple of Doom. I just think that just means that they
Right.
were aware of where it was canonically in the timeline.
Right.
But also, I like his ambiguity. I think he's just a good-looking guy, so he's allowed to be morally ambiguous, I guess, in my mind.
Yeah.
He's like Han Solo with a hat. So good.
With no spaceship.
Had to look for hat. That's funny. If this was one of our episodes, that would be the tagline.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with that? Who do you stand with, Calum? Or is it kind of good for the whole series, or is it just a lot clearer in Last Crusade where his motivations are at in this film?
I mean, keeping in mind who your co-host is.
Yeah, I know.
Who your editor
Yeah,
is.
well, that's true as well. Oh God, yeah. To be honest, I don't really want to just repeat what Sam said, but I would probably fall in line with that mostly. I think you don't want your character to stand exactly still as you're making additional sequels and the likes as well. You do want to see some growth. I think as well, you don't want... It's odd when your character is an archaeologist, I suppose, or something like that, basically a grave robber in many ways as well. Like it's hard not to have some kind of moral ambiguity there, because even if you're doing it for legitimately good reasons, as in to preserve a culture or a historical artifact or whatever, you're still at the end of the day having to essentially go in and rob the place. And is it really your place to do that? I don't know necessarily that it is. So,
do you feel like in Dial of Destiny, like they're going to have to, in the 21st century, they're going to have to like address that a bit more? Do you reckon, or are they just going to hand wave it?
I hope they don't. They kind of addressed it in this one in that they couldn't take the artifact that they found home. I think they addressed it here. This ended it nicely. Like, we didn't really need... But I digress.
But I think that happens in all of them, really. Like, Temple of Doom, he doesn't take the Sankara stones with him.
Yeah.
And Raiders of the Lost Ark, he doesn't bring home the Ark.
Yeah, but they, like, explicitly state in this one, like, can't go past the... You know, like, they've set up so it cannot. And Sean Connery just wanted to see it. They had a chance of grabbing it and saving the artifact instead of letting it get buried. But instead, he let it go because he was told to by his dad. And it was Sean Connery who really wanted to find it. And it turns out he just wanted to see it, which is a lot better than arguably taking it. You know, the goal being taking it and taking it to a museum. Like, he just wants to see it. That's it.
Yeah, I think in many ways, actually, we're maybe discussing a question that the films themselves haven't asked. So as you say, if he doesn't take the artifacts, like most of the time anyway, then I suppose there's not really that question there. But I would also say as well, I don't really know that anyone's going to Indiana Jones films for like morality around like the ethics of grave robbing or not. So I wonder if for the new one specifically, if there is an argument to be made that maybe they shouldn't go down that route for no other reason than like your lane is to make a fun adventure film with a character that is iconic within cinema. I don't know that we need a bunch of messages here about whether or not it's right to steal that, because that's not what we're here for. And more to the point, like, your average person's never going to go grave robbing anyway, so it's not like there's a lesson to learn here. So.
I mean, I would say that the Hitler jokes are maybe a bit worse than grave robbing, you know, for like just real life context. You know, I would maybe say that's what I'd have more of a problem with, not his motives or why he's stealing or why he's using. I would say, maybe having the Nazis be like a fumbling, you know, unable to aim character, maybe not a great thing, but it's fine. You know, I'll accept it.
Yeah, we are where we are.
I think when Sean Connery arrives, it's very much like a fun moment. But upon his arrival, things just go from bad to worse. Like, they both get caught. Like, Elsa betrays them and is revealed as a Nazi, and Donovan, like 2 minutes later, is revealed to be the main bad guy. So I like how the film balances the joyous moment of seeing Indiana Jones and James Bond on screen together, but like raising the stakes dramatically, so the film keeps you focused on the story and not being distracted by saying, holy shit, that's Sean Connery. You know, so I kind of like that. Like, you get all these reveals all at once, but you're still very much focused on the story.
I'm not really sure how I feel, actually. Like, Sam, it might be interesting to hear your take on this, because maybe I don't really like the character of I mean, I quite like Elsa, the way that Elsa's portrayed, but I'm not really sure I like the story beat that she is kind of in with the Nazis in the end. But then Indiana Jones is still kind of seemingly quasi, like, he's not exactly rebuffing her entirely at points when she's still being a bit flirtatious and stuff. And I'm just like, is the message here Nazis are okay as long as they're pretty? Like, what's going on here? Like, I don't think, again, I feel that's another tonal bit that the film maybe gets a bit off track on.
Okay. Yeah, we're focusing more on the romance rather than the fact that she's a Nazi.
Yeah, like, I don't really know what we're meant to be taking there.
I feel like her role is like this kind of femme fatale type figure, that she's kind of playing both sides.
Oh, yeah.
To a degree, she only cares because the books are getting burnt, not because people are getting murdered. You know, like, she's upset when the books are burning. She doesn't like knowledge being lost, but she's okay with everything else they're doing. And I'm like, come on, girl. Come on.
Yeah.
Human lives, maybe. I like that she turned out to be a Nazi, though, weirdly, because I think she'd been quite grating throughout, because she's too Mary Sue-ish in a way. Like, she's too, like, calm, collected in what she's doing, can direct people places. Do you know what I mean? That's why I liked Willie. She wasn't. She was just a normal woman thrown into this world, whereas Elsa just goes for it too much. Like, she was too...
Okay.
She's almost built for it. Like
she's just seen a corpse float in the water, you know, and she's too chill.
Like, the heart of this film is, of course, like, the relationship between Indiana Jones and his father, Sean Connery. Their scenes together are really funny in the action, but there's plenty of heart there too. Like, you learn on the Zeppelin that they haven't seen each other in, like, a long time, and have never really talked to each other. And Connery questions whether Indy really believes in the Grail before they go to Berlin to get the diary back. And at the end, Indy can only enter the last chamber if he believes in the Grail with a leap of faith. So then, like right at the end, when Indy is holding Elsa's hand and she's reaching for the Grail but ends up dying, then Indy ends up in Elsa's position and his dad is holding his hand and Indy is reaching for the Grail as well. And then Sean Connery says, Indiana, for the first time. And I actually got a little bit emotional in that point. Like the real prize in this film is just Indy really connecting with his dad, not finding the Grail. So like the short round moment where he says, I love you, you're my best friend. This got me a lot harder in this film. Did that moment work really well for you guys as well?
I think it maybe works quite well because, again, you're going into Indiana Jones thinking you're going in for like a great kind of adventure, basically. You're not really going, I can't wait to view the bits about human connection. That's why I'm going to Indiana Jones
yeah,
for.
Exactly.
So I think because it kind of comes out of nowhere a lot of the time, or it's not that it comes out of nowhere, but it's very carefully placed. So it's not something that the film leans upon. It utilizes these moments at perfectly precise points to give the best sort of impact that these moments can have. And I think that's probably why they work so well. And I think it depends where people are coming at it from their own personal lives, but lots of people have grown up with parents who maybe weren't necessarily as supportive or very, I suppose, at least verbally encouraging as they would have liked. And I think that sort of moment would resonate with quite a lot of people. Like, even if that's not you yourself, you probably know someone for who that's the case. I certainly have over the years known people whose parents were, they loved them, but they maybe didn't encourage them as much as they should have done or could have done. But who are you to judge other people's parenting, I suppose, at the end of the day? But my point is, we all know someone who's kind of got a relationship with their parents like that. So you can definitely see why a moment like that would be impacting or impactful, and why it would mean a lot with people. So,
and I think it just reflects as well just the fact that the writing is so good between these characters, and the chemistry is probably the strongest the series has ever had between those characters, and that moment just works so well just from that point, regardless. Really, did that scene really work for you, Sam?
Yeah, it's kind of shows that the story has been not Indiana believing in the Grail, it's been Henry Jones believing in his son, and that's the point we needed, because the flaw throughout this has been their relationship, because he has been fixated on this Grail, and they finally have it. They finally have the chance to get it. So the fact that he chooses his son over the Grail is just really touching and really meaningful. That's, I don't know, it's really sweet. It made me emotional too, watching him give it up. Because that's the thing, I hate when he was like, oh, do you really believe in the Grail, little dad? Like, see, if my dad was like fixated on this religious object that I wasn't entirely buying into, I would start to hate my parent too. I'd be like, this is this crap, you've neglected me for this. And he does, he does know the stuff. He has paid enough attention to it. But I love that he finally, throughout the film, has found the worth. Like, sees what his son does, and he pays attention to him, and that's it. And then at the end, they even go back to joking, so it's not like their relationship's entirely changed, but it's changed enough.
Yeah. And then you get that reveal that Indiana is named after the dog.
Yeah. He's Henry Jones Jr.
Yeah.
He's like, I prefer Indiana. It's kind of such a slap in the face.
I prefer Indiana.
I have fond memories of that dog.
Yeah. So that brings me to funny lines then. What we got, people?
Oh, so me and Calum have the same one. We both showed each other our notes. And it's near the very beginning, and it's when he steps out of the cave and he says, everybody's lost but me. I love that.
Okay.
I love that line. That's great.
And there's also X never ever marks a spot, which is only funny because X literally marks a spot in the church they're going to dig into.
And then it disappears.
Yeah. And then obviously no ticket, because no ticket's just brilliant, because it's such chaos. He's just like, oh, well.
Yeah. What's this one? The Ark of the Covenant. Are you sure? Pretty sure. It's a good one.
The only other one that I was thinking, other than your little we named the dog Indiana stuff that we were talking about before, he chose poorly as well.
Oh my god, yeah.
I love that one too.
It's like, no shit.
He chose
Yes.
It's just the pause he does. It's great.
It is. It's the pause that does it. Perfect.
It's everything we've just witnessed. Yeah, it's so funny.
I should have mailed it to the Marx Brothers. It's great.
Sean Connery has so many good lines, but his accent makes him hard to understand sometimes, so I can't directly quote him.
I love his accent. I'm not going to lie, I have practiced it a little bit for this podcast. But,
I even knew you would do that.
But then I remembered you guys are Scottish, so I might dial it back a bit.
Well, you can't do that now. You have to. Come on. Like,
yeah, you're going to do it now.
I suddenly remembered my Charlemagne.
that was pretty good. Yeah.
It's not bad, yeah.
Thank you. It's a great one from Vogel. And this is how we say goodbye in Germany, Dr. Jones. And then he punches him in the face. I mean, a lot of Germans must never say goodbye much to each other just to save a punch in the face. So, you know.
I feel like throughout this, we've not really given, what's his name? The one that, Salah and Marcus Brody very much attention, because they two are also, they have some amazing lines together because they're kind of a double act. Like second only to Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, but like they have so many good lines and I just can't remember any of them.
What was it? They come up against like two Gestapo officers and they're like, and he's like, Salah's like, oh, I've got the new newspaper here, run.
He's like, what? He's like, run.
Great reading, run. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's just stuff like that. I really enjoyed watching those two together, but I can't highlight an exact moment. I mean, obviously one you've just done there, yeah. But
yeah, like it's not a line, but the bit where he tells him to hide in the doorway, and the doorway turns out to be a truck that then drives off. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's funny. One great one from Sean Connery when they're in the tank and Vogel says, "What does the diary tell you that it doesn't tell us? It tells me that goose-stepping morons like yourself should try reading books instead of burning them."
And then the guy's like, what was it? The pen's mightier than the sword. He's really proud of his pun. He's like, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, he's like, what? Where's war, Marcus? But my favorite is, that makes me laugh every single time, is when they're being shot out by the Nazi plane and Connery goes, those people are trying to kill us. I know, Dad. Well, it's a new experience for me. It happens to me all the time. That makes me laugh every single time.
Oh, they are so good together. Calum, we are so lost.
Yeah. Not if we botch the scores.
We're giving it a 2.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So, screenplay score, guys? Botching or 10?
We should probably be honest.
We can't do the come down with me stuff, Calum. That's not cool.
No, we can't.
I'm tempted to say a 9.
Yeah, I was going to say 9. I think we're going to have to...
0.5?
9, I think.
You're not getting the points from us, man. It's not.
We're not doing it. We're sticking to our guns.
9. We are solid 9.
Fair enough.
But that's still higher than we gave our own one, so you're good.
Yeah.
So, screenplay score for me, I think it's probably the best screenplay out of the 3 Indiana Jones films. Just got amazing heart, and just the lines are so funny. So I'm going to match directing, actually, like 9.3.
I like that you say 3 Indiana Jones films. You don't even count Crystal Skull as a film.
Oh, well, that's a fan-made film, isn't it?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys listen to the Empire podcast, the British film magazine. They do a joke where they just don't acknowledge that it exists. It's 3 Indiana Jones films. This is a fan-made movie that they made, Right, acting then. Like, we have talked a little bit about Elsa, like Alison Doody. I thought she's pretty good in this, actually, from an acting perspective. Like, she's this brilliant femme fatale. Like, in the Nazi castle, she's brilliant as this damsel in distress when she's at gunpoint from Vogel. Then when she takes the book, her face turns brilliantly like, thank you very much, Indy, with that really menacing smile. And I love that last scene with Elsa where she chooses a grail for Donovan, but she has like a little look at Indy to suggest she knows it's not the right one. I don't know if you guys noticed that. She, like she could be on Indy's side now, But it ends up she just wants it for herself. So I did just love that little look at the end that she gives Indy, you know.
She's an RR, Callum.
Oh, was she? Who did she? Sorry, just...
She was the evil lady. The governess.
Oh my goodness, how exciting.
The one with the whip.
Lady Catherine.
Have you seen RR? Yeah.
No, I've not.
You should.
Well, highly recommend that, by the way. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. No, I didn't realize she'd been in that. Right, okay. I agree, though. It was a transition of her face for me during the scene where she takes the book off. I'm going to be formal, off Indiana. Very formal. We don't know each other that well. So it's
Henry Jones Jr.
Yeah, exactly. But it was that because she goes from terrified, oh shit, I'm about to get killed by this guy that's holding me, to like, actually I'm in on it. And yeah, it's that kind of flip, kind of like we were saying in the previous part about if you're going to convulse or whatever, if you're going to be possessed, you have to go for it 100%. I think conveying a believable transition between one sort of set of expressions to another, it requires a lot of effort, because this is someone who is acting at pretending to be acting. So the character, well, she is like she. So the character is pretending to be acting. She's doing 2 levels of acting in one. It's she's double acting. Yeah.
So does she have the hardest job in this film for you? Minus the stunt work.
Yeah, she's a Nazi forever.
Yeah, minus this.
She's labeling herself a Nazi. That's a brave thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Well, to be fair, yeah, it is. I think she probably does have some of the harder like character work in this, because I would argue that at this point, Harrison Ford, you kind of see him as Indiana Jones, so he's not trying to convince you anymore that he is this part. Like, we see him as that. Like, we're 3 films in by this point. So Sean Connery probably does have a bit more of an effort for people not to see him as Sean Connery in this, but I think he does a great job in that. Mm-hmm. She probably has more work to do in terms of convincing you, because they've got each other to play off of. I think she probably does have one of the harder jobs in this. I wouldn't say she has the hardest job, but I think she's definitely up there in terms of that. But I rate her really well in this, I have to say. And I think as like the woman kind of quasi love interest as well. Oh, see, it's hard to pick, because there's such different roles between her and Willie. Like, they're such different. Yeah, they play such different parts. I wouldn't want to pick actually and say which one was better utilized.
I think I would say like Sean Connery kind of has a fairly difficult role as well, because we're not really used to seeing him as this kind of bumbling older guy, even though the age difference isn't that much, and he was doing action films still at this time. So, you know, in '89, you know, The Rock is a great one, and that's in the '90s, early '90s. So we're just not really used to him like this, like a bumbling idiot kind of thing. We're used to him as the Indiana Jones type of character.
That's why I'd argue that Marcus Brody has the hardest role, the guy who plays Marcus Brody, because he has to play extreme bumbling idiot who comes across as still kind of English, you know what I mean? British. Well, like, he's doing some ludicrous things. Like, he's wandering around the streets going, well, does anyone know this? And he just happens to find someone who does. Like, I would say his, like, playing stupid convincingly is hard. Yeah. Like, it's hard. And he's not even stupid. He's just, you know, stupid.
He's just ill-prepared for the circumstances. Yeah.
Ill-prepared. Yeah, extremely ill-prepared. And yet, the way, I know it's not him at the end, but see the way they have him ride the horse at the end, and he's like half dangling off. Brilliant. But I would say his role is really hard, because I couldn't play that convincingly. Not that I couldn't play any role convincingly, but that role especially, I couldn't play convincingly.
I think just going back to like Connery and Harrison Ford, like, you know, that their relationship, their chemistry is just what makes this film special, really, compared to the other movies. Like, I love the moment where they escape from the Nazis in a motorbike and sidecar, you know, using the boat as a decoy, and Sean Connery just gives Harrison Ford a look of disgust, as if to say, how dare you put me in the sidecar. I know it's not because of the sidecar, it's because he just shoved 2 Nazis in the river, but yeah, and then Sean gives him like a dirty look again when Harrison Ford takes out like the last Nazi on the bike. You know, I mean, to do the same gag twice in quick succession is just a testament to how strong their partnership is, you know. Also, Sean Connery must have been like, how the hell did you snap that flagpole off with your arm? I'm like, are you Superman? So again, that's another moment of like the physics in this film. Like, it's just like, excuse me?
Sometimes it's best not to question it.
He's got super strength right now.
Yeah. But even when they first meet up, when he shoots an axe, he's like, "What did you do? Look what you did!"
Yeah,
he's just shocked that his son's shooting someone. Yeah,
come on, Dad.
That's why it's so great that like when their relationship grows into the tank, where he's suddenly on board of killing people. He's like, "Yeah, dude, we're at war." And he's explaining that to Marcus.
So, favorite performance, guys? Who are you going for? Sam?
Oh no! Oh, it's so. I'm going to say Harrison Ford. With Sean Connery a very, very close second because they play off each other so well. But Harrison Ford, I think, because it's like if Harrison Ford weren't there, would it be an Indiana Jones film? Obviously not. You know, I think he just keeps us grounded to Sean Connery's like nutty professor kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I would say the same. Only for the basis that again, this is one of those picking. So for me, and I'm going to say this, and then you're going to pick someone else. But like picking someone that isn't Harrison Ford as possibly the standout performance in an Indiana Jones film, it's a bit like watching something like, I don't know, I can't think of a good. It's
a bit like watching Mariah Carey live and going, "Wow, I really like that backing dance."
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, so
all right,
yes, yeah, Harrison Ford for me as well.
Okay, so I really like the backing dancer in this film. I'm actually going to go with Sean Connery. Yes, like Harrison Ford is amazing as the titular character, but like you just don't see Sean Connery like this. I've never seen him so funny, and yeah, he's just so unique in this role. So I'm going with Sean Connery, the backing dancer.
The backing dancer. Imagine calling Sean Connery a backing dancer. He was born in Edinburgh, though, so I mean, it's really a win for us, Calum, if we think about it technically.
Yeah, that's true.
Score for acting, guys? What are you going for?
Probably a 9, right?
Probably a 9. Like, I don't think there's anyone in this that's like, in the way that previously we were saying some of the kids were a little bit like not quite there. I don't know if there's anyone in this that I'm like, you didn't do like.
Does that mean we give 10?
Maybe we should give it a 10. Goodness.
Maybe we give it a 10.
Shall we just give it a 10?
Goodness, I think we're going to give it a 10.
Goodness me. Yeah.
Do you get 10s a lot on your podcast?
Nope.
Let's go for 10. We're going to lose. So let's
go for 10.
Let's go.
Okay. You sure? Final answer?
Yeah. It's Harrison Ford, man, and Sean Connery. Of course it's a 10.
Okay. Let's do it.
I think on this podcast we're a bit scared of 10, so
we'll fight the wave. The 10 is the if it's not going to be a 10, why put 10 on the scale? You know?
Yeah, fair enough. So I think again, like the acting is so good as well. This is hard.
Come on, don't use your points. Use your 10s.
Yeah, get your 10s out.
You can do it, sir.
I think I might just go like a straight 9, actually.
Who lets you down?
Not much, to be honest.
Don't be afraid of the 10.
I just feel like the other elements, like the directing and the writing, are just better. If it's difficult to explain, I guess, but like there's no like standout acting moments where you're like, oh my god, the acting there is incredible. Whereas a lot of the stuff in all these films, like it's just like, oh, that action scene was amazing. Oh, that line was so funny.
But the line's only funny because they're delivering it funny.
Yeah,
you know?
I was expecting that response.
And I'd argue that the fact that they've managed to pull off like a Nazi film, right? And we're laughing and we don't feel disgusted by it. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah. So I'll go like a 9.1,
cool.
I think.
Oh, we got my point. We did it.
Yeah. Right, let's add up the scores then for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Even though it's not the last film.
It should be. Well, maybe number 5 might be really good.
Maybe.
I have heard mixed things.
Oh.
But you always hear mixed things nowadays, don't you? No one wants to be happy. They want the 80s back. Yeah. We can't have it back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Indiana Jones gets 55.7. That is a very, very high score. Let's have a look at the leaderboard to see where that goes, because it could be very, very close to the top of our list.
We might have accidentally fudged the scores in a different way, Calum.
We're in the history books.
Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade goes third, behind The Thing and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, I like Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse, so that's really good.
Yeah, that's on the number one spot at the moment.
That's fair. But I don't think anyone would be mad that Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was up that high, to be fair.
No, yeah, it's such a great ride.
No one will fight us on that.
So Last Crusade wins this episode, beating out Temple of Doom, which got 51.4. So next episode, as the Mission Impossible franchise returns with Dead Reckoning Part 1. Yep, you guessed it. We're talking Mission Impossible films. So doing a little series on like franchise movies at the moment. Yep, it's summertime, people. Guys, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. This is your opportunity again to tell us about your podcast and where can we find you?
Sell us, Calum.
Sell us. Well, she's Sam, I'm Calum, and One of Us is Bored. You can find us on Instagram at One of Us is Bored. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. We have a whole bunch of short videos there, and also because we are kind of a production team. Did I mention we were award-winning last time? I think I did. You can find our award-winning short film, Robin the Magic Con, on our YouTube channel at One of Us is Bored there. If this has interested you in following us on Instagram or whatever, then quite honestly, I'm not sure why, but we would love to have you join us. So thanks for listening and sticking with us. So there you go.
And thanks for having us on. It was really good fun.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was good fun.
That's all right. Also, we should have guests for next week as well from the We Need Roads podcast as well. So that should be a lot of fun for next time. Guys, it's time to say goodbye. It's goodbye from Calum and Sam. Goodbye, guys. Say goodbye.
Bye.
It's so surprising how many times guests get stumped by that question. But well. All right, it's goodbye from me. I am going to rewatch all these films over and over again until I go to bed. Bye-bye. That's it for part 2. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 1 if you haven't done so already. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.